The keys were cold in my palm, and so was her smile. "Take my car, Mom," Claire said, standing in my kitchen doorway like she owned it, which, I suppose, she thought she soon would. I stared at those silver keys dangling from her perfectly manicured fingers. French tips, salon fresh, not a chip in sight. My own hands were spotted with age, veins like rivers under thin skin. 67 years of washing dishes, changing diapers, holding grandchildren, 67 years of surviving. And I wasn't about to stop now. "That's sweet of you, dear," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But my car's running just fine." "I insist." She pressed them into my palm, her grip firm. Too firm. "Yours has been making that noise, remember? I'd feel terrible if you broke down on the way to your appointment." My car wasn't making any noise. We both knew it. Behind her, I could hear my grandchildren, her children, laughing in the living room, cartoons playing, normal morning sounds in a house that suddenly felt like a trap. "Besides," Claire continued, her voice dripping with false concern, "you've been so forgetful lately. I worry about you driving that old thing." Forgetful. That word again. She'd been planting that seed for months now. Little comments at family dinners, concerned looks when I couldn't remember some trivial detail she'd invented. David, my son, her husband, he'd started to believe her. But I wasn't forgetful. I was just old enough to recognize a predator when I saw one. Last night, I couldn't sleep. The heat had been unbearable, pressing down on the house like a weight. So I'd gone downstairs for water, padding through the dark in my nightgown like a ghost. That's when I saw the light in the garage. Not the overhead fluorescents, just the small work lamp, the one David used when he tinkered with the cars. It threw long shadows across the concrete floor. I should have called out, should have announced myself. But something stopped me. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the way that light flickered, guilty and quick. Maybe it was just that I've lived long enough to know when something's wrong. I pushed the door open slowly. Claire was crouched beside her silver sedan, her designer blouse cream silk, expensive, smeared with grease. Tools scattered around her like evidence. A wrench in her hand. She was under the car, working on something. When the door creaked, she jumped so hard she hit her head on the undercarriage, scrambled out like a cat caught in the garbage. "Mom." Her voice was too loud, too bright. "What are you doing up? I could ask you the same thing." She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, you know, David mentioned the car was making a noise. Thought I'd take a look myself. YouTube tutorials, right? You can learn anything these days." Claire didn't know a wrench from a screwdriver. "At midnight?" I asked. "Couldn't sleep." She wiped her hands on a rag, smearing the grease around. "You know how it is." I knew exactly how it was. She was lying. Now, standing in my kitchen with those keys burning cold in my hand, I understood what I'd witnessed. The pieces clicked together like a lock turning. She'd done something to that car, something that would look like an accident. Something that would happen on a winding road between here and town, where the cliffs dropped off into nothing and the guardrails were old and rusted. Something that would make me disappear. "Well?" Claire's voice cut through my thoughts. "Are you going to take them or not?" I looked up at her. Really looked. She was beautiful, I'd give her that. 32 years old, blonde, highlights fresh, skin that expensive moisturizer could buy. She'd walked into David's life 5 years ago like a fairy tale princess, and he'd fallen so hard he forgot to look for the witch underneath. But I'd seen her. From the beginning, I'd seen her. The way she tallied up the value of my antiques when she thought no one was watching. The way she asked about my will at Thanksgiving dinner. The way her eyes went sharp and cold whenever David suggested we help them financially instead of waiting for, well, for me to die. "You know what, sweetheart?" I said, closing my fingers around those keys. Her face lit up. "Victory. Why don't you come with me?" I smiled, watching her expression flicker. "We can have a girls' day, just you and me in your car." The color drained from her face like water down a sink. "Oh," her laugh was glass-breaking. I can't. I have a conference call. For work. Big client. Reschedule it. It's really important. So is spending time with family." I took a step toward her, keys clutched in my weathered hand. You're always saying we should be closer. Well, here's our chance. You and me, mother and daughter. She wasn't my daughter. She'd never be my daughter. But I wanted to watch her squirm. I also have a headache, she added quickly. And the kids need me. The kids are fine with cartoons. David can watch them. Can't you, honey? My son appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand, completely oblivious. Watch who? Your children, I said sweetly. While Claire and I have a girls' day, she's being so generous, lending me her car. Thought we'd make a whole thing of it. David smiled. That's a great idea. You two should spend more time together. Claire's jaw tightened. David, I told you about my call. Reschedule it, he said, kissing her forehead. Mom's right, family's important. I watched her face cycle through emotions, panic, rage, calculation. She was trapped, and she knew it. If she refused now, it would look suspicious. If she came with me, she couldn't let whatever she'd done to that car play out. And if she did come with me, well, we'd see exactly what she'd sabotaged. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. Let me just grab my purse. She disappeared upstairs, heels clicking on hardwood like gunshots. David squeezed my shoulder. This is nice, Mom. She really does care about you, you know. My beautiful, foolish boy. I know exactly how much she cares, I said. When Claire came back down, her purse over her shoulder and her smile back in place, plastic, perfect, I dangled the keys between us. Ready? I asked. Her eyes met mine. And for just a second, the mask dropped. I saw her, really saw her. The rage, the calculation, the cold certainty that I was an obstacle to be removed. Then she smiled again, all teeth. Ready, she said. I turned toward the door, keys in my hand, my back to a woman who wanted me dead. You know what, sweetheart? I said over my shoulder. Why don't you come with me? We can have a girls' day, just you and me in your car. Claire's coffee mug was shaking. Just slightly. Just enough for the liquid to tremble at the rim, catching the morning light. She stood in my kitchen, perfectly composed except for that one tell, those manicured fingers wrapped white-knuckled around ceramic, betraying everything her smile tried to hide. Actually, she said, her voice climbing half an octave, I just remembered the conference call is in 20 minutes, not an hour. I completely mixed up the time zones. You know how it is with international clients. She'd never mentioned international clients before. That's fine, I said, settling into my chair at the kitchen table. We'll go after. I can push my appointment back. No! Too loud, too fast. She caught herself, laughed. I mean, you shouldn't do that. Your health is important, Mom. You should definitely keep your appointment. Then I'll take my car after all. The noise. I'll risk it. Her jaw clenched. But I already offered. And I'm declining. I smiled at her. Thank you anyway, sweetheart. We stared at each other across my kitchen. A battlefield disguised as a home. David walked through, oblivious, ruffling his daughter's hair as she ran past, chasing her brother. You two sort out your plans? I've got to jump on a work call myself. All sorted, I said. Claire said nothing. Just stood there, trapped between maintaining her concerned daughter-in-law act and the growing panic I could see spreading behind her eyes like cracks in ice. When David disappeared into his office, she leaned forward. Are you feeling all right, Mom? Her voice dropped, intimate and poisonous. You seem confused. First you want to take my car, then you don't. It's concerning. There it was again. That word. Confused, forgetful, concerning. Building her case, brick by brick. I need to use the bathroom, I said, pushing back from the table. Age, you know, everything takes longer. I left her standing there, coffee mug still trembling in her hand. In the bathroom, I locked the door and pulled out my cell phone with shaking fingers. The contact was still there. Marcus Chen, David's best friend since high school, the one person my son trusted almost as much as he trusted his wife. The mechanic. I hadn't called him in 2 years, not since he'd moved his shop across town. But I remembered him good kid, grew into a better man, someone who'd always called me Ma and meant it. The phone rang twice. "Hello? Marcus. It's David's mother." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I need your help, and I need you not to ask questions until you get here." Silence. Then, "Are you safe?" "Smart boy." "For now. Can you come? Quickly?" 20 minutes. "Park down the street. Don't let anyone see you." "Ma, what's going on?" 20 minutes, I repeated. "Please." I hung up before he could argue. Through the bathroom window, I could see the driveway. Claire's silver sedan, gleaming in the morning sun, innocent, perfect, deadly. I flushed the toilet for effect, ran the water, composed my face. When I came out, Claire was exactly where I'd left her. "Feeling better?" she asked. "Much." I picked up my purse. "I think I'll sit on the porch for a bit, get some air before I leave." "Want company?" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. Her eyes narrowed. I softened. "You have your call. I'll just enjoy the quiet." I walked out before she could respond. Marcus arrived in 18 minutes. I watched his truck roll past the house and park 3 doors down, old habits from childhood pranks making him cautious. He got out, toolbox in hand, and I met him at the end of the driveway. He'd grown into his father's build, broad shoulders, steady hands. But he had his mother's eyes, kind eyes. "Ma, you're scaring me." "Good," I said. "You should be scared. I need you to look at that car." I pointed to Claire's sedan. Specifically, the brakes. His expression shifted. The kindness remained, but something harder moved underneath it. "Why?" "Because I think my daughter-in-law tried to kill me." The words hung in the air between us. He didn't laugh, didn't dismiss me, just nodded once and said, "Where is she?" "Inside. She thinks I'm alone out here. Give me 5 minutes." He moved quickly, efficiently, slid under that car like water, his toolbox beside him. I stood guard, my heart hammering against my ribs. 67 years old, and I'd never felt adrenaline like this, not even when I'd given birth, not even when my husband died. This was different. This was survival. Through the kitchen window, I could see Claire's silhouette. She was on her phone, pacing, probably pretending to be on that imaginary conference call. 3 minutes passed. 4. Then Marcus slid out from under the car, and his face, God, his face. It was the expression of someone who'd seen something they couldn't unsee. He stood, holding something in his gloved hand. A rubber line, cut clean through, too clean to be wear and tear. "The brake line," he said quietly. "It's been severed. Not all the way, just enough that when you applied pressure, when you really needed them." He stopped, swallowed hard. "Ma, you would have died." The world tilted. I'd known, suspected, feared. But hearing it confirmed, seeing the evidence in his hand. "Show me," I whispered. He held it up to the light. The cut was precise, deliberate. Someone had known exactly where to slice, exactly how much to leave intact so it would fail at speed, on a turn, when brake failure would look like tragic accident. "This is attempted murder," Marcus said, pulling out his phone. "I'm calling the police." I grabbed his wrist. His eyes met mine, confused, concerned. "Not yet," I whispered. "Ma." "Not yet." My grip tightened. "I need to know why. I need her to confess it herself." "She tried to kill you. And if we call the police now, she'll deny everything. She'll say I'm paranoid, confused, that my age is making me see threats that don't exist." I could feel tears burning behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. She's been building that narrative for months. My own son half believes it already. Marcus looked back at the house, at the woman pacing in the kitchen window. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. I thought about my grandchildren, about David, about the life Claire had infiltrated like poison in the bloodstream. "I want you to document everything," I said. "Photographs, close-ups. Then I want you to fix it." "Fix it?" "Make the car safe again, but don't let her know you were here." Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You're going to trap her. I'm going to make her show everyone who she really is. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. Give me 10 minutes. While he worked, I stood guard. An old woman in her driveway, watching her daughter-in-law through a kitchen window, holding evidence of attempted murder in her pocket, and planning her next move. I couldn't stop thinking about money. Not because I loved it, I'd never been that type, but because Claire did. I'd seen it in her eyes from the day David brought her home, the way she'd walked through my house like she was taking inventory. And now, I knew she was willing to kill for it. After Marcus left brake line fixed, evidence documented, his face still pale with shock, I sat at my kitchen table and did something I should have done months ago. I pulled out the files. Estate documents, bank statements. The will my husband and I had drawn up 30 years ago, updated after he passed. Everything I'd kept locked in my desk drawer, organized and safe. Or so I thought. What are you doing? Claire's voice made me jump. She stood in the doorway, that same practiced smile on her face, but her eyes were locked on the papers spread across my table. Just reviewing some things, I said, casually covering the top document with my hand. Boring financial stuff. Need help? She moved closer. Too close. I'm pretty good with paperwork. I could organize it for you. Make it easier to understand. I understand it fine. The smile tightened. Of course. I just meant at your age, these things can get overwhelming. At my age. I'm 67, Claire, not dead yet. Something flickered across her face. Annoyance? Frustration? I didn't mean it like that. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. I'm just trying to help. We're family. Family. The word tasted like ash. I appreciate it, I said, gathering the papers, but I've got it handled. She watched me lock them back in the drawer, her jaw tight. When she finally left, I waited 10 minutes. Then I called my lawyer. Mrs. Chen. Harold's voice was warm through the phone. He'd been our family attorney for 20 years, had handled my husband's estate, had never steered me wrong. What can I do for you? I need you to check something, I said quietly, watching the doorway. My accounts, the estate, everything. I need to know if anyone's tried to access them. Silence. Then, what's happened? Just check, please. Give me an hour. It took 45 minutes. When he called back, his voice had changed. Professional, careful. We need to meet in person, he said. Today. Can you come to my office? That bad? That bad. I told David I had errands to run. He barely looked up from his laptop, distracted by work. Claire, conveniently, was in the shower. I drove my own car, not hers, never hers again, with my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Harold's office was downtown, 3rd floor of an old building that smelled like coffee and leather. He met me at the door, his usually jovial face grave. Sit down, he said. I sat. He spread documents across his desk, like Marcus had spread evidence of the brake line. Different crime, same intention. 3 months ago, Harold began, someone attempted to file paperwork naming them as your power of attorney. My stomach dropped. The documents were rejected because they lacked proper notarization. The signature didn't match our records. He pointed to a form. But look at this. It was my signature. Almost. Close enough that if you didn't know me, didn't have decades of documents to compare, you might believe it. That's not my handwriting, I whispered. I know, which is why it was flagged. He pulled out another sheet. But here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks ago, someone called the bank claiming to be you. Said you were concerned about memory issues and wanted to add your daughter-in-law to your accounts just in case. I never. The bank flagged it as suspicious because you'd been in the week before and seemed perfectly lucid. But the fact that someone tried. He leaned forward. Mrs. Chen, who has access to your personal documents. I thought about my desk drawer, the lock that was probably older than Claire. She could have picked it, I said. Or found the key. Who? My daughter-in-law. Harold's expression darkened. Tell me everything. So I did. The garage, the brake line, Marcus's discovery, Claire's escalating comments about my memory, my age, my supposed confusion. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. "This is elder abuse," he said quietly. "Financial exploitation, attempted fraud, and combined with the break line, attempted murder." The words hung between us. "Why?" I asked, even though I knew. "We help them financially. David has a good job. They're not struggling." "Aren't they?" He pulled out another file. "I did some digging after the power of attorney attempt. Your son and daughter-in-law are $127,000 in debt. Credit cards mostly. High-end purchases, luxury items, that European vacation they took last year." I remembered that vacation. Claire's Instagram had been full of photos, designer boutiques, expensive restaurants, 5-star hotels. "David doesn't know," I said. It wasn't a question. "The cards are in her name. He probably thinks their finances are fine." Harold tapped the file. "Your estate is worth approximately $2.3 million. The house alone is worth $800,000. If something happened to you and your son inherited, she'd have access to everything." Exactly. I thought about my grandchildren, about the college funds I'd set up for them, about the house my husband and I had built together, the land we'd cultivated, the life we'd made. She wanted to take all of it, and she'd almost succeeded. "What do I do?" I asked. Harold leaned forward, his eyes sharp. "We build a case, document everything. I'll file a complaint with the bank about the attempted fraud. You need to get those break line photos from Marcus. I'll need them notarized. And," he hesitated, "you need to tell your son. He won't believe me." "Then make him believe you." I drove home in a daze, the files Harold had copied for me sitting in my passenger seat like evidence at a crime scene. When I pulled into the driveway, Claire's car was gone. David met me at the door, his face tight with concern. "Mom, are you okay? Claire said you seemed really confused this morning, disoriented. She's worried." "I'm fine. She said you accused her of something with her car." "I didn't accuse her of anything." "Then what happened?" "Because she's upset, and I need to understand." "Your wife," I said quietly, "is trying to steal from me." The words landed like stones. David stared at me. "What?" I pushed past him into the house, into the kitchen where everything had started this morning, pulled the files from my purse, and spread them across the table. "Look," I said. "Really look." He picked up the forged power of attorney. His face went pale. "Mom, that's not my signature. Your wife tried to file it 3 months ago. There has to be an explanation. The bank attempts, the debts in her name, the way she's been telling you I'm forgetful, confused, unreliable." My voice cracked. "She's building a case, David, so that when I disappear, no one will question it." "Disappear?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Mom, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" The front door opened. Claire's voice rang through the house, bright and cheerful. "I'm home. Sorry, I just had to clear my head with a drive. You know how it is." She appeared in the kitchen doorway, shopping bags in hand, that smile plastered on her face. Then she saw the papers. The smile died. "What's going on?" she asked slowly. David turned to her, the forged document in his hand. "Claire, did you try to file power of attorney for my mother?" Her eyes met mine over his shoulder. And for just a second, I saw it. Pure, cold hatred. Then she laughed, setting down her bags. "Oh, honey, is this what this is about?" She moved toward him, touched his arm gently. "Your mother and I talked about this months ago. She was worried about, getting older. What if something happened and she couldn't make decisions? She asked me to look into it, just in case. I was just trying to help." "That's a lie," I said. Claire turned to me, her face the picture of hurt confusion. "Mom, you don't remember? We talked about it over coffee. You were so worried. I never asked you to do anything." "You did. You were having one of your moments." She looked at David, her voice dropping to a whisper. "See? This is what I've been trying to tell you. She forgets things, important things, and then gets upset when people try to help." I watched my son's face. Watched him look between his wife and his mother. Watched him try to decide who to believe. David, I said quietly. There's more. More paranoid accusations? Claire laughed, but there was an edge to it now. Maybe we should call Dr. Patterson, have him evaluate. Your wife tried to kill me. The kitchen went silent. Claire's face drained of color. What did you just say? I pulled out my phone, opened the photos Marcus had sent me, held them up so David could see. That's your wife's brake line. Severed. Marcus checked it this morning after I saw her in the garage last night, covered in grease, hiding something. David took the phone, stared at the images. This could be from anything, Claire said quickly. Wear and tear, road damage. It's a clean cut. I kept my voice steady. Marcus documented everything. Timestamps, close-ups, the angle of the cut. It's deliberate. My son looked up at his wife. Claire? She stared at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Then she smiled. That same poisonous smile I'd seen all morning. You can't prove anything, she whispered. You're insane. Claire's voice was ice, but her hands were shaking. She turned to David, eyes wide, the perfect picture of a victim. Your mother is having a breakdown. Can't you see that? David stood frozen between us, my phone still in his hand, images of the severed brake line glowing on the screen. Claire, he started. No, she cut him off, her voice rising. I have been patient. I have been understanding. But this? She gestured at me like I was something diseased. Accusing me of attempted murder? This is insane. I watched her performance with something close to admiration. She was good. The trembling lip, the wounded eyes, the way she touched David's arm, seeking protection from the monster I was being painted as. Mom, David said quietly, carefully, like he was talking to someone on a ledge. These are really serious accusations. Because they're true. Or because you're confused. Claire's voice softened, dripping with false compassion. Honey, we've talked about this. Your mother has been showing signs, forgetting conversations, getting disoriented, these paranoid thoughts. It's classic early-stage dementia. I don't have dementia. That's what everyone says. She looked at David, tears forming perfectly in her eyes. My grandmother was the same way. She accused my mother of stealing from her, of trying to poison her. It broke our family apart. I don't want that to happen to you and your mom. Brilliant. She'd just reframed everything, my legitimate concerns into symptoms, my evidence into delusions. The brake line is real, I said, my voice harder now. Marcus documented it. Call him. He'll tell you. Marcus? Claire laughed, sharp and bitter. Your son's friend who you called this morning while I was upstairs, who you snuck into the driveway while David was on his work call. You orchestrated this entire thing. David's eyes snapped to me. You called Marcus? Yes. Without telling me? Without checking with Claire first? His voice held disappointment, and I felt something crack in my chest. Mom, that's not okay. Going behind our backs? I went behind her back because she tried to kill me. Stop saying that. Claire's tears spilled over now, and she buried her face in David's shoulder. I can't keep living like this. Being accused, being suspected. I've tried so hard to be a good daughter to her. To help. To care. And this is what I get? David's arms wrapped around her automatically. And I stood there, alone on the other side of the kitchen. My son. My beautiful, foolish son. He was choosing her. Maybe Dr. Patterson should come by, he said quietly, stroking Claire's hair. Just for an evaluation, just to make sure everything's okay. I'm not crazy. No one's saying you're crazy, Mom. But his eyes, God, his eyes were full of pity. You're getting older. Things change. It's normal. Nothing about this is normal. I held up the phone, the photos still glowing. Look at this. Really look at it. He glanced at the screen, but I could see he'd already made up his mind. His wife was crying in his arms. His mother was making wild accusations. Of course he'd choose her. I think you should rest, he said gently. We can talk about this later, when everyone's calmer. Rest. The word they used before they locked you away. I looked at Claire, still hidden against David's shoulder. But her eyes were visible, staring at me over his arm. And she was smiling. I went upstairs. Not to rest, not to be a good, compliant old woman who accepted her fate, but to plan. In my bedroom, I locked the door and pulled out my phone. Marcus had sent me everything: photos, timestamps, close-ups of the brake line, evidence that would hold up in court. If anyone believed me. I opened my voice recorder app, the one my grandson had installed 6 months ago so I could remember things better. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then I sat on my bed and waited. 20 minutes later, I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Mom?" David knocked softly. "Can we talk?" "Come in." He opened the door, looking exhausted. 10 years older than he had this morning. "Claire's resting," he said, sitting on the edge of my bed. "She's really upset." "So am I." "I know." He rubbed his face. "Mom, I love you. You know that. But these accusations, they're serious. They're dangerous. If you really believe Claire tried to hurt you, we need to get you help. The help I need is for you to believe me." "How can I?" He spread his hands. "You're telling me my wife, the mother of my children, is trying to kill you for money. Do you hear how that sounds?" "It sounds like the truth." "It sounds like paranoia." His voice cracked. "And I'm scared, Mom. I'm scared that you're not okay, that something's happening to you, and you won't let us help." I looked at my son, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone after his father died, the man I'd sacrificed everything for, and I made a choice. "You're right," I said quietly. He blinked. "What?" "You're right. I'm sorry." The words tasted like poison, but I swallowed them down. "I've been confused, stressed. Maybe I'm seeing things that aren't there." Hope bloomed in his eyes. "Really?" "Really." I smiled, soft and defeated. "I think I should see Dr. Patterson, get checked out, make sure everything's okay." "Oh, Mom." He hugged me, relief flooding through him. "Thank you. Thank you for being reasonable. We'll get through this together, okay?" "Okay." He left, practically floating with relief. I waited until his footsteps faded. Then I turned off the voice recorder in my pocket. Dinner that night was a performance. Claire had cooked her specialty, the fancy pasta dish she always made when she wanted to impress. She set the table with my good china, lit candles, smiled at everyone like she hadn't spent the day trying to gaslight me into insanity. "This is nice," David said, holding her hand. "Just what we needed. A family dinner." The kids chattered about school. My grandson showed me a drawing he'd made a house with stick figures. Me, David, Claire, the kids, all together, all happy. I smiled and praised him, playing my part perfectly. "So, Mom," Claire said sweetly, passing me the salad. "David mentioned you're going to see Dr. Patterson. That's wonderful. Really proactive of you." "I thought it was the right thing to do." "It is." She squeezed my hand across the table, her grip just a little too tight. "We all want what's best for you. We're family." There was that word again. "How have you been feeling?" she continued, her voice loud enough for David to hear. "Any other episodes? Confusion? Memory lapses?" She was building her case right here at the dinner table. "Just the usual senior moments," I said lightly. "You know how it is." "I don't, actually. But I'm learning." She smiled. "It must be scary, losing track of things, not remembering conversations." "Terrifying," I agreed. David relaxed visibly, seeing us get along. Fool. After dinner, I insisted on doing dishes. Claire protested. "You should rest, Mom," but I waved her off. "I'm not helpless yet." I stood at the sink, washing plates, watching their reflections in the kitchen window. Claire whispered something to David. He nodded, kissed her cheek, disappeared upstairs to put the kids to bed. Then she came up beside me. "That was a good performance," she said quietly, picking up a dish towel. "I learned from the best." She smiled. "You think you're clever, pretending to give in, recording conversations, building your little case." My blood ran cold. "I've been doing this longer than you've been alive," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I know every trick." "So do I." She dried a plate slowly, methodically. "And here's what's going to happen. You're going to see Dr. Patterson. You're going to seem confused, forgetful, maybe a little paranoid, because that's what stress does to elderly people. I'm not. Then you're going to agree to a living arrangement that's safer. Maybe assisted living. Maybe just a nice nurse who comes by to help." She set the plate down. "And slowly, quietly, you're going to fade out of this family, out of David's life, out of your grandchildren's lives, and into my grave. Eventually." Her smile was razor sharp, "but not before you sign over power of attorney, not before the estate is secured. I'm patient. I can wait." "Why?" The word burst out of me. "Why do you hate me this much?" She turned to face me fully. "I don't hate you," she said simply. "I just need you gone. You're in the way of everything I want. The house, the money, the life I deserve. You married David. I married a means to an end. A good man with a rich mother who wouldn't live forever." She tilted her head. "Except you keep living, and I'm tired of waiting." We stood there, two women in a kitchen, speaking truths that would never be said aloud in front of witnesses. "You won't get away with this," I whispered. "I already have." She leaned closer. "Because who's going to believe you? The confused old woman making wild accusations? Or the devoted daughter-in-law who's just trying to help?" Footsteps on the stairs. Claire stepped back, her face transforming instantly into warm concern. "You okay, Mom? You look pale. Maybe you should sit down." David appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right?" "Fine," I said, my voice steady despite the rage coursing through me. "Just tired." "Let me help you upstairs," Claire offered, reaching for my arm. I pulled back. "I can manage." But as I walked past her, she leaned in close enough to whisper, "Sweet dreams, while you still can." That night, I lay in bed with my door locked and my phone recording every sound in the hallway. She thought she'd won. She thought I was just another obstacle she could remove, another old woman too weak to fight back. But I'd survived 67 years of a world that tried to break me. I'd buried a husband. I'd raised a son alone. I'd built a life from nothing. And I'd be damned if I let some entitled, greedy little girl take it all away. I opened my phone and texted Marcus. "Need you to do something else for me. Tomorrow. Don't tell David." His response came immediately. "Anything." Then I texted Harold, my lawyer. "Move forward with everything. I'll get you what you need." Finally, I opened my voice recordings from the day. Claire's voice, cold and clear. "I don't hate you. I just need you gone." I smiled in the darkness. She wanted a performance? I'd give her a performance she'd never forget. David came home at 6:30, tie loosened, briefcase in hand, looking like every other tired husband at the end of a long day. Claire was waiting. She always was. I watched from the kitchen doorway as she rushed to him, her face lighting up like he was her whole world, kissed him like they were newlyweds instead of 5 years deep into a marriage built on lies. "Rough day?" she murmured against his shoulder. "Exhausting." He held her close, eyes closed, soaking in her comfort. And she looked at me over his shoulder. Smiled. That triumphant, possessive smile that said, "He's mine. You've already lost." "How's Mom been?" David asked, pulling back to look at her. "Oh, you know." Claire's voice dropped to that concerned whisper I'd come to hate. Quiet, a little withdrawn. I tried to get her to come shopping with me, but she said she was too tired. I hadn't been invited shopping. "Maybe that's good," David said. "Rest is probably what she needs before the appointment." They spoke about me like I wasn't 10 feet away. Like I was already a problem to be managed, instead of a person to be heard. "Dinner's almost ready," Claire said brightly. "Why don't you go change? I'll get the kids washed up." She disappeared upstairs, efficient and perfect, leaving David and me alone in the hallway. "Hey, Mom." He smiled, but it was tired, strained. "How are you feeling?" "Fine." "Good. That's good." He shifted his briefcase from one hand to the other. "Listen, I've been thinking maybe after Dr. Patterson, we should look into some options. Not anything drastic," he added quickly, seeing my face. Just support. Someone to help around the house, make things easier for you. Easier for me. Or easier to control me. I don't need help, David. I know you think that, but… He stopped himself, rubbed his eyes. Can we not do this right now? I've had a hell of a day, and I just want a quiet dinner with my family. His family. Not our family. His family. The shift had already happened, and I hadn't even noticed when. Of course, I said quietly. He kissed my forehead, distracted, obligatory, and headed upstairs. I stood alone in the hallway of my own house and felt like a ghost. Dinner was another performance. Claire had made pot roast, David's favorite. She'd set out flowers, poured wine, created the perfect domestic scene. This is incredible, babe, David said, cutting into his meat. I just want to take care of my family. Claire squeezed his hand, then looked at me. All of us. The kids ate messily, happily. My granddaughter told a story about recess. My grandson asked if he could have dessert first. Normal. Everything was so brutally normal. Except I could barely taste the food. So, Mom, David said carefully, I called Dr. Patterson's office today. They had a cancellation tomorrow afternoon. I booked it. That was fast. Well, I figured, why wait? He smiled encouragingly. The sooner we make sure everything's okay, the better. I already told you I'd go. I know. I'm worried about you. His voice cracked slightly. You're my mom. I want to make sure you're taken care of. Claire rubbed his back soothingly. You're such a good son. I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, I appreciate your concern. After dinner, David helped Claire clean up while I sat in the living room with the kids. They curled up beside me, warm and trusting, watching cartoons. This is what she was taking from me. Not just the money or the house. These moments. This family. This life I'd built. Grandma? My granddaughter looked up at me with wide eyes. Are you sick? No, sweetie. Why? Mommy said you might have to go away for a while. To get better. My blood turned to ice. Did she? She said you're having trouble remembering things, that sometimes old people need special help. She hugged me tighter. I don't want you to go away. I'm not going anywhere, baby. But even as I said it, I could see the path Claire was laying out. She'd already started preparing the children. Already planting seeds about my condition. When I disappeared, whether to a facility or something more permanent, they'd already understand. They'd already been told Grandma was sick, confused, needed to go somewhere else. They wouldn't question it. David walked in, saw us cuddled together, smiled. Bedtime, you two. Say goodnight to Grandma. They hugged me, kissed my cheeks, ran upstairs with David chasing behind them. Claire sat down beside me. You told them I was sick, I said quietly. I told them the truth. You're having cognitive issues. It's better they understand now. I don't have cognitive issues. Dr. Patterson will determine that. She stood, smoothed her dress. But between you and me, I'm not worried about what he'll find. I'm worried about what David will believe. She left me sitting there. And I realized something that made my stomach drop. She'd been isolating me for months, maybe years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, thinking about the past year. All the little moments I dismissed as coincidence. The family dinner I'd hosted that everyone canceled at the last minute. Claire's idea to surprise David with a weekend away. The holidays where I'd been invited but made to feel like an afterthought, uncomfortable in my own traditions. The birthday party where I'd arrived to find they'd already cut the cake because we thought you'd be late, and you know how the kids get. The phone calls that went to voicemail returned hours later with apologies about being so busy. The times I'd tried to take the grandkids alone, only to have Claire find reasons why today wasn't good, this weekend didn't work, maybe next month. Every single one calculated. Designed to create distance, to make me seem less essential. So when I was gone, it would feel natural instead of tragic. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my messages with David. Pages and pages of texts from me. Short responses from him. When had that happened? When had I become the one always reaching out, always asking, always accommodating his schedule. When had my son started treating me like an obligation instead of his mother? I knew the answer. 5 years ago, when he married her. Around midnight I heard voices through the wall. My bedroom shared a wall with theirs, something I'd never thought about until tonight. I pressed my ear against the cool plaster. "Can't keep doing this," David's voice frustrated. "She's my mother. And she's not well." Claire, calm and reasonable. "You saw her today. The accusations, the paranoia. This is exactly what the doctor warned us about." "What doctor?" "We haven't been yet." I called him myself. Last week, described her symptoms. He said it's consistent with early dementia. Silence. "You called without telling me?" David asked. "Because you're too close to see it, honey. You love her. That's beautiful. But it's making you blind to how serious this is." A pause. "She's dangerous right now. To herself. Maybe to the kids." "The kids? That's insane." "Is it?" "She accused me of trying to kill her. Who knows what she might imagine next, what she might do." "She wouldn't. Your mother stood in our kitchen and told you I sabotaged her car. She snuck a mechanic into our driveway to create evidence against me." "David." Her voice broke perfectly. "I'm scared. Not for me. For you. For our children." More silence. Then David, quieter. "What do you think we should do?" "I think tomorrow's appointment is a start. But we need to be prepared for what comes next." Rustling, like she was moving closer to him. "If Dr. Patterson confirms what we already know, we need to make some hard decisions. About her living situation. About her access to finances. That feels like we're taking away her independence. We're protecting her, and protecting ourselves. What if she causes an accident? What if she forgets the stove is on, or leaves the door unlocked, or God forbid does something that puts the kids at risk?" She would never intentionally. But if her mind isn't working right, she can't control what she does. I listened to my son's struggle. Listened to the silence stretch. Listened to my daughter-in-law slowly, carefully, poison him against me. "Okay," he finally said. "We'll see what Dr. Patterson says. But Claire, if she's really sick, we need to be compassionate, not just efficient." "Of course." A kiss. "I love that you're such a good son, that you want to do right by her. That's one of the reasons I married you." "I love you. I love you too." More silence. Then the sounds of them settling into bed. I stood there with my ear against the wall, tears streaming down my face. My son. My beautiful, blind, foolish son. She had him completely. At 3 a.m., I crept downstairs. The house was dark, quiet, everyone sleeping. I went to David's office, the small room off the living room, where he kept his work laptop, his files, his life. I knew I shouldn't, but I needed to know. I opened his email. The password was still the same one he'd had since high school, written on a sticky note in his desk drawer because he could never remember it. I searched for Claire's name. Found dozens of emails. From her to him. Over the past 6 months. Subject: concerned about your mom. Subject: things I've noticed. Subject: maybe we should talk to a doctor. Each one carefully worded, full of specific examples. She forgot we talked about Thanksgiving plans, asked me 3 times about the date. She left the stove on yesterday. I found it an hour later. What if we hadn't been home? She got confused about which day it was, thought Tuesday was Friday. Every single one a lie, or a twisted version of truth. I'd asked about Thanksgiving multiple times because Claire kept changing the plans and not telling me. I'd never left the stove on, she had, then blamed me. I'd mentioned the wrong day once, jokingly, and she'd turned it into evidence of confusion. Months of emails. Months of building her case. Months of poisoning my son against me. And he'd believed every word. I scrolled further back. Found emails from 3 years ago. Subject: your mom's estate. Subject: future planning. She'd been asking about my will, my assets, my plans, before I'd even noticed there was a problem. David's responses were innocent, trusting. I don't really think about that stuff. It's morbid. She's healthy. I'm sure we don't need to worry for a long time. Whatever she decides is fine with me. It's her money. And Claire's replies, always gentle, always reasonable. Of course, I just want to make sure we're prepared if something happens. You're right. I'm probably overthinking. I just love you and want us to be secure. I sat in the dark, reading years of manipulation, watching my son fall deeper into her trap. Never suspecting, never questioning, always trusting. Because that's how I'd raised him to trust, to see good in people, to believe in love. And she'd weaponized every value I'd taught him. I closed the laptop, went back upstairs, lay in bed as the sun started to rise, and I made a decision. If David couldn't see the truth, I'd have to make him see it. If he wouldn't believe my words, I'd have to let Claire expose herself. She thought she'd won because she had him convinced I was sick. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated how far a mother would go to save her son, even from himself. I picked up my phone and texted Marcus, tomorrow, after my doctor's appointment, I need everything ready. Then I texted Harold, I'm going to get you her confession, on tape, admissible in court, whatever it takes. David would hate me. He'd think I'd set her up, manipulated her, stooped to her level. But eventually, when the dust settled and the truth came out, he'd understand. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was just a mother protecting her child. Even if he couldn't see the danger yet, I didn't sleep. By 3 a.m., I'd given up trying. Instead, I sat at my desk with my laptop glowing in the darkness, building my case the way Claire had built hers, piece by piece, lie by lie, evidence by evidence. Except mine was true. Marcus had sent everything. Photos of the brake line severed clean, too precise to be accidental, close-ups with timestamps. A video of him explaining what he'd found, his voice steady and professional. This is deliberate sabotage. Someone cut this brake line knowing exactly what would happen when pressure was applied at high speed. I saved it all to a USB drive, backed it up to the cloud, sent copies to Harold. Then I went deeper. The family computer sat in the den, a shared desktop that everyone used. David for work overflow, the kids for homework, Claire for her online shopping, and me, apparently, for gathering evidence of attempted murder. I knew I shouldn't. This was technically snooping, probably illegal, definitely something David would see as a betrayal of trust. But Claire had tried to kill me. So I logged into the shared account and opened the browser history. At first, it was normal. Amazon searches, Pinterest recipes, news sites. Then I scrolled back 2 weeks. And my blood ran cold. How long does it take for brake failure to cause an accident? Can brake tampering be detected? Symptoms of early dementia in elderly women. How to get power of attorney for elderly parent. Challenging a will due to mental incompetence. Untraceable ways to cause brake failure. Average time for elderly accident victims to die from injuries. Elder care facilities that accept dementia patients. All searched between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. When everyone else was asleep. When she thought no one would ever check. I took screenshots of everything, every single search, with dates and timestamps. Then I found the real treasure. Buried in a folder labeled Recipes was a document titled Estate Planning Notes. I opened it. It wasn't recipes. It was a detailed breakdown of my entire financial situation. Assets. Primary residence, $800,000 estimated. Investment accounts, $1. 2M. Savings, $300K. Life insurance, $200K. Total, $2. 5M. Current obstacles. David is primary beneficiary. No power of attorney established. Subject, still in good health. Subject becoming suspicious. Action items. Establish POA. In progress documents forged, awaiting opportunity. Document cognitive decline, emails to David ongoing. Create distance between subject and family. Successful. Accelerate timeline, considering options. Timeline. Month 1 to 3. Build case for incompetence. Month 4 to 6. Secure POA or guardianship. Month 6 to 12. Transfer assets. Establish control. Month 12 plus. Consider long-term solutions. Long-term solutions. She'd written that in black and white. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. This wasn't just greed. This was premeditated, calculated, cold. She'd planned this for over a year, and I'd never suspected until it was almost too late. I printed everything. The browser history, the document, Marcus's photos, the forged power of attorney papers Harold had given me, the emails from Claire to David. By the time the sun started rising, my desk looked like a detective's murder board. Evidence spread across every surface. Proof of a woman who'd married my son for money and was willing to kill to get it. I organized it all into a folder, labeled it clearly, made 3 copies. 1 for Harold, 1 for the police, 1 for David for when he was finally ready to see the truth. At 7, I heard footsteps upstairs. Claire's voice, bright and cheerful. "Good morning, sleepyheads." The kids responding with groggy complaints. David's laugh, deep and warm. The sounds of a normal family morning. I closed my laptop and hid the evidence folder in my locked desk drawer. Then I went downstairs to face her. "Mom!" David looked surprised to see me up so early. "Couldn't sleep?" "Old age," I said lightly. "Everything wakes you up." Claire appeared in the kitchen doorway, perfectly put together despite the early hour. Hair styled, makeup flawless, wearing one of those casual expensive outfits that screamed money. My money, I realized. The money she was already spending in her head. "Coffee?" she offered, all sweetness. "I can make my own." "I know. I'm just trying to help." She poured a cup anyway, brought it to me. "Big day today. Your appointment with Dr. Patterson." "I haven't forgotten." "Of course not." She smiled. "I'm sure you'll do great. Just be honest with him about how you've been feeling. The confusion, the memory lapses." "I haven't had any memory lapses." "Mom," David said gently, setting down his phone. "You have. We've talked about this." "When?" "See?" Claire looked at him meaningfully. "This is what I mean." They exchanged a look concerned husband and worried wife, united against the unreasonable old woman. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. Let them think I was defeated. Let them think they'd won. The appointment was at 2. David insisted on driving me. Claire insisted on coming along. For support, she said. For control, she meant. We sat in Dr. Patterson's waiting room, me between them, flanked like a prisoner. David scrolled through his phone, distracted by work emails. Claire watched me like a hawk. "Nervous?" she asked quietly. "Should I be?" "Not at all. Unless you have something to hide." Her smile was poison. "Mrs. Chen?" The nurse called my name. We all stood. "Actually," I said, "I'd like to speak with Dr. Patterson alone." David frowned. "Mom? I'm 67, not 7. I can handle a doctor's appointment by myself." "But we should be there to provide context," Claire started. "What context?" "Either I'm competent or I'm not. The doctor can determine that without an audience." I walked toward the nurse before either of them could argue. Behind me, I heard Claire's sharp whisper. "See, defensive, paranoid, classic signs." Dr. Patterson had been my physician for 15 years. He'd treated my husband before he died, had seen me through menopause, through grief, through everything. He knew me. "Mrs. Chen." He smiled warmly, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Good to see you. Though I have to admit, I'm a bit confused about why you're here. Your last physical showed you in excellent health." "My daughter-in-law thinks I have dementia." His smile faded. "I see. And what do you think?" "I think she's trying to have me declared incompetent so she can steal my estate." Silence. Then, "That's quite an accusation." "I have proof." I pulled out my phone, showed him everything. The searches, the document, the emails to David. Marcus's photos of the brake line. He listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each piece of evidence. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. Mrs. Chen, this is beyond a medical issue. This is criminal. I know, but I need you to do something for me first. What? I need you to evaluate me, thoroughly. Cognitive tests, memory assessments, everything. And I need you to document that I'm completely sound of mind. Understanding dawned in his eyes. So when she tries to claim you're incompetent, you'll have recent official documentation proving otherwise. He nodded slowly. All right, let's do this properly. 2 hours later, I emerged from the office with a sealed envelope. David and Claire both jumped up. Well? Claire asked, her voice tight. Dr. Patterson wants to speak with you both. Her face paled slightly. Why? He didn't say. Just asked me to send you in. They exchanged glances, then headed toward the office. I sat in the waiting room, the sealed envelope heavy in my purse. Inside was Dr. Patterson's full evaluation. Cognitive function. Excellent. Memory. Sharp, no signs of decline. Mental status. Completely sound. Conclusion. Patient shows no signs of dementia, cognitive impairment, or mental incompetence. Patient is fully capable of making her own medical, financial, and legal decisions. Plus his personal note. I'm calling Adult Protective Services. What you've shown me constitutes elder abuse and attempted fraud. I'm also copying your son on this report. I'd tried to stop him from the last part. He needs to know, Dr. Patterson had said firmly. Whatever she's told him, whatever she's made him believe, he needs to see the truth from a medical professional. So David would get a copy. Whether he believed it or not was up to him. They emerged 20 minutes later. David looked stunned. Claire looked like she wanted to murder someone. Probably me. Let's go, she said tersely. The drive home was silent. David kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. Claire stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Finally, David spoke. Dr. Patterson said you're fine, completely healthy, no signs of any cognitive issues. I told you that. He also said, David's voice cracked. He said you showed him some very concerning things. About Claire. David, Claire started. Is it true? He pulled the car over, turning in his seat to look at his wife. Did you search for ways to cause brake failure? I can explain. Did you? Silence. Then. I was researching for a crime novel. I told you I wanted to try writing. You never mentioned a crime novel. Because it's embarrassing. I didn't know if I'd be any good. What about the document? I asked quietly from the back seat. The one titled, Estate Planning Notes with my entire financial breakdown? Claire's head whipped around. You went through my computer? The family computer, I corrected, that we all share. You had no right. I had every right. My voice was steel. You tried to kill me. That's not I never. She turned to David, tears forming. She's twisting everything, making me look like some kind of monster. Can't you see what she's doing? David sat frozen, hands on the steering wheel. The brake line, he said quietly. Marcus found it cut. That's real. It was probably road damage. Marcus has been a mechanic for 15 years. He knows the difference between damage and sabotage. Then someone else did it. Maybe someone trying to frame me because they know about the inheritance. Who would even know? I asked. Who has access to our garage? Who was working on that car the night I found her? Claire's mouth opened and closed. No answer. David put his head in his hands. I need to think, he said. I need to think. He started the car again. Drove us home in silence. That night, I lay in bed with my door locked, listening to the house settle around me, waiting for the next move. Because this wasn't over. Claire was cornered now, desperate. And desperate people were the most dangerous. Around midnight, I heard my doorknob turn. Slowly, carefully, testing to see if it was locked. I held my breath. The doorknob rattled again. Then footsteps, retreating down the hall. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and opened my voice recorder. Started recording. Then I texted Marcus. Tomorrow, we end this, whatever it takes. His response, I'm ready. I was ready too. Ready to stop performing. Ready to stop pretending. Ready to make Claire show everyone exactly who she was. Even if it meant putting myself in danger one more time. Because that's what mothers do. We walk into fire to save our children. Even when they can't see the flames. The house was dark when I crept downstairs at 2 a.m. Not dark enough to hide the shadow standing in my kitchen. Claire. She stood by the sink, illuminated by moonlight through the window, holding something in her hand. I flipped on the light. She spun around, and we both froze. On the counter between us, spread like an accusation, were all my documents. Every piece of evidence I'd printed, organized, hidden in my locked desk drawer. The drawer I'd checked before bed. The drawer that had been locked. You picked the lock, I said quietly. You broke into my computer. Her voice was ice. I'd say we're even. Those are private. So was my search history. She held up the printed pages, my evidence, my carefully built case. This is what you've been doing? Building some conspiracy theory against me? It's not a conspiracy if it's true. She laughed, sharp, brittle. You actually believe this, don't you? That I'm some kind of mastermind trying to murder you for money? The brake line was real. The brake line was an accident. It was sabotage. I took a step into the kitchen. Marcus documented everything. Dr. Patterson has seen the evidence. Harold has copies. Harold? Her eyes flashed. Your lawyer? You involved your lawyer? What did you think I'd do? Let you kill me quietly? I'm not trying to kill you. Her voice rose, then caught herself, glanced at the ceiling where David and the children slept. When she spoke again, it was a harsh whisper. You're paranoid, delusional. You need help. I have help. I have evidence. I have witnesses. You have nothing. She moved closer, and I saw something in her hand now. Not papers, something else. A syringe. My blood turned to ice. Claire, do you know what this is? She held it up to the light, clear liquid inside. Insulin. Just regular insulin. Completely legal. I'm diabetic, did you know that? Probably not. You never asked about me, never cared about anything except seeing me as a threat. Put it down. Why? It's mine. For my medical condition. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Although, I suppose in the wrong dose, for someone who isn't diabetic, it could cause a lot of problems. Confusion, disorientation, could even look like dementia. The room spun. You've been poisoning me. I haven't touched you. She set the syringe down on the counter, casual, like it wasn't evidence of attempted murder. But I could have. So easily. You're so trusting. Taking food I prepare, drinks I bring you. You never suspected. I suspect now. Now it's too late. She leaned against the counter, relaxed, like we were discussing the weather. You weren't supposed to be awake. You were supposed to find these documents missing in the morning, think you'd misplaced them, maybe even destroyed them yourself. Another sign of your declining mental state. David knows. David doesn't know anything. Her voice hardened. David sees what I show him. He believes what I tell him. He loves me. He loved his father too. That didn't stop grief from breaking him. Something flickered across her face. Is that a threat? It's a reality. If something happens to me, David will investigate. He'll ask questions. And I'll have all the answers. She gestured to the evidence on the counter. Paranoid mother. Forged documents trying to frame innocent daughter-in-law. Sad, really. The dementia made her see enemies everywhere. Dr. Patterson certified I'm sound of mind. Dr. Patterson is 70 years old and retiring next year. Who's going to believe him over a neurologist I'll bring in? Over months of documented evidence, my emails, my concerns, witness after witness saying how confused you'd been? She'd thought of everything. Why? The word came out broken. Just tell me why. Why do you hate me this much? For a moment, her mask slipped. I don't hate you, she said, and it sounded almost honest. I actually respect you, In a way. You built something. You survived. You made a life. Then why take it? Because it should be mine. Simple. Direct. I grew up with nothing. Foster homes, shelters, people who had everything and never appreciated it. When I met David, I saw my chance, a good man with a rich mother who wouldn't live forever. I'm 67. I could live another 20 years. I know. Her voice dropped. That's the problem. I've already waited 5 years, playing the perfect wife, the devoted daughter-in-law. Pretending to care about family game nights and holiday dinners and your endless stories about David's childhood. Each word was a knife. I've earned this, she continued. Every smile, every performance, every time I bit my tongue while you gave unsolicited advice or criticized how I raise my children. I've paid my dues. They're not just your children. They're mine, her eyes flashed. Mine and David's, not yours. You're just the grandmother, disposable, replaceable. When you're gone, they'll be sad for a week, maybe a month. Then they'll forget. That's how children are. That's not true. It is. She picked up the syringe again, turning it in the light. And David? He'll grieve. He'll feel guilty. But he'll have me to comfort him, to help him through it, to eventually make him see that your death was a blessing, no more worry, no more burden of care. I'm not a burden. You are, she said it so matter-of-factly. You're in the way of the house I want, the life I deserve, the future I've planned. I reached into my pocket slowly. What are you doing? Claire asked. Checking my phone. Why? To see the time. I pulled it out, screen glowing, recording indicator visible in the corner. I'd started recording the moment I'd seen her shadow in the kitchen. Her eyes locked on that little red dot. Understanding dawned. You're recording this. Not a question, a statement. Yes. How long? Long enough. Her face transformed, the mask finally, completely dropping. What was underneath was cold and calculating and utterly devoid of the warmth she showed the world. You think you're clever, she whispered. I think I'm a mother, protecting her son. From me? From what you'll do to him. When the money runs out, when he stops being useful, when the next opportunity comes along. I took a step toward her. You don't love him. You love what he gives you access to. I love what I can make of this life. She moved too, circling around the counter. And you're not going to stop me with a recording. I'll say you edited it, took things out of context, that your paranoia made you manufacture evidence. Multiple witnesses, medical documentation, physical evidence of the brake line, your search history, the forged power of attorney. My voice steady now, stronger. It's not just a recording. It's a pattern, a case, proof. Proof you manipulated. Proof of attempted murder. The words hung between us. You can't prove I cut that brake line, she said finally. I can prove you researched how to do it, that you had opportunity, that you tried to make me take that car, that you panicked when I suggested coming with you. Circumstantial. Added to everything else? The poisoning threats? This conversation? I held up my phone. You just confessed. To all of it. Why you married David, how you've been planning this, what you think of our family. Her hand tightened on the syringe. Delete it, she said quietly. No, is not walk. Delete it, or I'll... What? Kill me right here? In the house where your husband and children are sleeping? I smiled grimly. Go ahead, try to explain that. We stared at each other. Two women in a kitchen at 2 a.m. Predator and prey, but neither of us sure anymore who was which. Then Claire lunged. She moved faster than I expected, the syringe in her hand, aimed at my arm, my neck, anywhere she could inject. I stumbled backward, hit the table, chairs clattering. Mom! David's voice from the stairs. Claire froze. I looked up to see my son standing in the kitchen doorway, hair disheveled, eyes wide, taking in the scene. His wife, holding a syringe. His mother, backed against the table. Evidence scattered across the counter. What's going on? He asked. Claire's face transformed instantly. The rage disappeared, replaced by tears. David, thank God. Your mother, she attacked me. That's not what happened. She's been recording me, twisting my words, trying to build some case. Claire's voice broke perfectly. I came down for my insulin, and she was here, going through my things, and when I asked what she was doing, she got violent. I never touched her. She threatened me. Claire held up the syringe. I had to defend myself. With insulin? David's voice was strange, flat. Claire's tears stopped. Just for a second. Just long enough for David to notice. Why would you need insulin at 2 a.m.? He asked quietly. My blood sugar. You're not diabetic, Claire. Silence. What? She asked. You're not diabetic. You never have been. He moved into the kitchen, and I saw something in his hand. His phone. I've been awake for the last hour. Couldn't sleep. So I started looking through things. Medical records. Insurance claims. All the things I should have checked months ago. Claire's face went white. There's no diabetes diagnosis, David continued, his voice breaking. No prescriptions, no medical history at all. So why do you have insulin? She looked between us. Trapped. Finally. This isn't what it looks like, she said. It looks like attempted murder, David's voice cracked. It looks like my wife was trying to poison my mother. David. Don't. He held up his hand. Just don't. He looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment everything clicked. The evidence, the timeline, the truth he'd been refusing to see. His face crumpled. I'm sorry, he whispered. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. Call the police, I said quietly. Now. He pulled out his phone. Claire took a step toward the door. Don't move, David said, and his voice was steel now. Fury. You move, and I'll. He couldn't finish. Couldn't even say what he'd do to the woman he'd loved, married, built a life with. The woman who'd tried to kill his mother. Claire stood frozen, the syringe still in her hand, her perfect mask shattered. And I hit stop on my recording. The panic button was in my cardigan pocket. Marcus had installed it that afternoon, a small device connected to a silent alarm at the police station. Press this, he'd said, and they'll come. No questions, just come. I pressed it now. Claire's eyes locked on my hand moving in my pocket. What did you just do? She asked. Called for help. You're lying. Sirens. Distant but growing closer. Her face went from pale to gray. No. No. She looked at David, tears streaming now, real panic replacing calculated performance. David, please. You have to listen to me. Your mother set this up. She planned all of this. Stop talking. His voice was hollow, dead. She recorded me without my knowledge, manipulated the situation, put words in my mouth. You said you married me for money. Each word came out like glass. That our children were disposable, that my mother should be dead already. Out of context, she edited. I heard it. David's phone was still in his hand, still recording. I've been listening for the last 10 minutes. From the stairs, I heard everything. Claire's mouth opened, closed. The sirens were on our street now. David. You tried to kill her. His voice broke completely. You cut her brake line. You were going to poison her with insulin. You forged documents. He couldn't continue. Just stood there, shaking. Blue and red lights flooded through the kitchen windows. Put the syringe down, I said quietly to Claire. Before they come in here and think you're a threat. She looked at it like she'd forgotten she was holding it. Set it down slowly on the counter. The front door burst open. Police! Hands where we can see them! 2 officers entered, guns drawn, taking in the scene elderly woman by the table, younger woman by the counter, man frozen between them. She's the one, David said, pointing at Claire. My wife, she tried to kill my mother. Claire's face crumpled. This is a misunderstanding. Ma'am, step away from the counter, hands up. Officer, please. I'm a mother, I have children upstairs. Hands. Up. Claire raised her hands, mascara streaming down her face in black rivers. One officer approached her while the other came to me. Ma'am, Are you injured? No, I'm fine. She has a syringe, David said. On the counter. Insulin. She was going to. His voice broke. The officer looked at the syringe, then at Claire. Is that yours? It's for my medical condition. She's not diabetic, David said. I checked. She's not prescribed insulin. She has no medical need for it. The officer's expression hardened. Ma'am, turn around, hands behind your back. Wait, no, you don't understand. Turn around, now. Claire looked at David one last time, desperate, pleading. David, please, tell them. Tell them this is wrong, that I love you, that I'd never. You said our children would forget me in a week. My voice cut through her begging, that I was disposable, that you'd been waiting 5 years for me to die. The officer pulled Claire's arms behind her back. The click of handcuffs echoed through the kitchen. You have the right to remain silent. I want a lawyer! Claire's voice turned sharp, hard. The tears stopped like a faucet turned off. I'm not saying anything without a lawyer. Anything you say can and will be used against you. This is entrapment. She set me up. I was defending myself. You have the right to an attorney. They led her toward the door. She fought it, heels digging into the floor. David, you can't let them do this. Think about our children, your family. David said nothing, just stood there, his face a mask of devastation. As they pushed her through the doorway, Claire looked back at me, and she smiled. That same poisonous smile from the beginning. Like even in handcuffs, even caught, she'd still somehow won. Then she was gone. More police arrived. Detectives, crime scene techs, someone to photograph the syringe, bag the evidence, document everything. I gave my statement sitting at my own kitchen table while a detective named Rodriguez took notes. Walk me through the timeline, she said. So I did. The garage, the brake line, Marcus's discovery, Claire's searches, the forged documents, tonight's confrontation. I showed her my recording. She listened to the whole thing, her face growing darker with each minute. When Claire's voice said, I've earned this, every smile, every performance, Rodriguez looked up at me. Mrs. Chen, you understand this recording is going to be central to the case? Yes. Your daughter-in-law's lawyer will try to get it thrown out, claim it was obtained illegally. I was in my own home, recording someone who threatened me. That's legal in this state. Rodriguez almost smiled. You've done your homework. I had a good lawyer. She closed her notebook. We're going to need everything, the brake line evidence, the forged documents, the search history, your lawyer's files, all of it. I have copies ready. I pulled the folder from the drawer the one Claire had broken into, had spread across the counter, had tried to use against me. Rodriguez flipped through it, her expression impressed. This is thorough. I'm 67, not stupid. Clearly, she stood. We'll be in touch. Don't leave town. We'll need you to testify when this goes to trial. It's going to trial? With this much evidence? Absolutely. Your daughter-in-law is looking at attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, forgery. She counted on her fingers. We might add assault with the syringe incident tonight. Could be 15 to 20 years. The number hung in the air. 15 to 20 years. Claire would be in her 50s when she got out. Her children would be grown. David would have moved on. The life she wanted would be completely, utterly gone. I should have felt triumph. Instead, I just felt tired. Dawn broke while detectives were still documenting the scene. David sat on the couch, head in his hands, silent. I made coffee, set a cup beside him. He didn't touch it. Dad? We both looked up. My granddaughter stood at the bottom of the stairs in her pajamas, hair mussed from sleep, eyes wide. Why are the police here? Where's Mommy? David's face crumpled. I knelt in front of her joints, protesting, body exhausted, but I knelt anyway. Sweetie, Mommy had to go with the police for a while. Why? Did she do something bad? How do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother is a murderer? Mommy made some mistakes, I said carefully. Big ones, and now the grown-ups have to figure out what happens next. Is she coming back? I looked at David. He couldn't speak, could barely breathe. I don't know, honey, I said finally. But Daddy's here, and Grandma's here, and we're going to take care of you and your brother, no matter what. She hugged me, small arms tight around my neck. Behind her, my grandson appeared, older, understanding more. She tried to hurt you, didn't she? He asked quietly. Mom, she tried to hurt Grandma. Yes, David said finally, his voice wrecked. She did. My grandson's face went hard. Too hard for a 10-year-old. Good, he said. I'm glad they took her. Don't say that, David started. Why not? It's true. He looked at his father with eyes too old, too knowing. I heard her sometimes, late at night, talking on the phone to someone, saying mean things about Grandma, about you, about us. The room went silent. What did she say? I asked gently. He swallowed hard. That we were her ticket, that once she got what she needed, she could start over. Be happy. He looked down. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it sounded bad. David made a sound like something breaking. I pulled my grandson into the hug with his sister, held them both while their father fell apart on the couch. And I thought about Claire's words. They'll forget. That's how children are. She was wrong. They'd never forget. None of us would. By noon, the police were gone. The house felt too big, too quiet. David called his work, told them he needed family leave. His voice was mechanical, empty. The kids sat on the couch watching cartoons, too quiet, too still. I made sandwiches no one ate. Around 2, my phone rang. Harold. I heard, he said. Are you all right? I'm alive. That counts for something. Rodriguez called me. She wants all my files. I'm bringing them to the station this afternoon. He paused. Mrs. Chen, you should know Claire's family is already calling. They're raising money for her defense, hiring an expensive lawyer. Of course they are. They're going to make this ugly. Paint you as a vindictive old woman who set up their innocent daughter. They'll put you on trial as much as her. Let them try. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is. I looked at David, still motionless on the couch. At my grandchildren, their world shattered. But I'm not backing down. She tried to kill me. She terrorized my family. She needs to face consequences. Agreed. I'll file a restraining order this afternoon. And we need to discuss your estate, make sure nothing can be challenged or contested. Later. Right now I need to take care of my son. I hung up. Sat next to David on the couch. He leaned into me, and for the first time since he was a child, he sobbed. I'm sorry, he choked out. I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't believe you. I chose her over you. You could have. Shh. I'm here. I'm okay. She fooled me. Completely. I thought she loved me. She loved what you represented. How did I not see it? How was I so stupid? You weren't stupid. I stroked his hair like I had when he was small. You were trusting. That's not a flaw. That's what I raised you to be. It almost got you killed. But it didn't. I'm here. We're all here. He cried until he had nothing left. The kids climbed onto the couch, curled up against us, and we sat there as the afternoon light faded. A family broken but not destroyed. Damaged but surviving. Together. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I walked through the house, checking locks, checking windows, making sure we were safe. In the den, I found David's laptop still open. He'd been researching lawyers, support groups, how to help children through parental incarceration, already trying to fix what Claire had broken. I closed the laptop, went to the kitchen, where it had all ended. The floor still had residue from the fingerprint powder. The counter still held an evidence tag where the syringe had been. Proof that it had really happened. That I'd really survived. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it. You haven't won. I'll be out on bail by tomorrow, and when I am, we'll finish this conversation. Claire. She'd gotten someone to smuggle a phone into holding. My hands shook as I screenshotted the message, forwarded it to Rodriguez, to Harold. Evidence of witness intimidation. Grounds to deny bail. Another nail in her coffin. I texted back. Come near my family again, and there won't be enough left of you to prosecute. Then I blocked the number. Stood in my kitchen. My house. My home. The one she'd tried to steal. And I smiled. Not because I'd won the trial ahead would be brutal, long, exhausting. Not because my family was whole, we'd be healing from this for years. But because I was still here, still standing, still fighting. And Claire? Claire was exactly where she belonged. The house felt different now. Not bigger or smaller, just haunted. By the ghost of the woman who'd almost destroyed us. 3 days since Claire's arrest, and I still caught David staring at empty spaces. The chair where she used to sit at dinner. The side of the bed that was now just cold sheets. The coffee maker she'd used every morning, still set to her preferred strength. I found him there at 6 a.m., standing in the kitchen doorway like he was afraid to enter. "Can't sleep?" I asked. He shook his head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see her, holding that syringe, looking at you like..." His voice broke. "Like you were nothing." "I'm not nothing. I'm here. Because you're smarter than me. Stronger. If you hadn't..." He couldn't finish. I guided him to the table, made coffee, set it in front of him. "You loved her," I said quietly. "That's not weakness. That's human. I chose her over you. You chose what you thought was real. She spent 5 years making sure it looked real. Dr. Patterson's report, Marcus's evidence, your recordings. All of it was right there, and I still..." He put his head in his hands. "What kind of son am I? The kind who believed in love, who wanted his marriage to work, who trusted his wife." I reached across the table, covered his hand with mine. "The kind I raised you to be. You raised me to be a fool. I raised you to be good. She weaponized that. There's a difference." He looked up at me, eyes red-rimmed. "How are you so calm about this?" I wasn't calm. I was furious, terrified, exhausted. But one of us had to hold this family together, and David was barely holding himself. "I've had longer to process it," I said instead. "You're still in shock. The kids keep asking when she's coming home. What do you tell them?" "I don't know." His voice cracked. "How do I explain that their mother is in jail, that she tried to kill their grandmother, that everything they thought was real was a lie?" "You tell them the truth, age appropriate, but the truth. They're 7 and 10, and they already know something's wrong. Children always know." I thought about my grandson's words. I heard her sometimes, saying mean things. "They're stronger than you think." They shouldn't have to be strong. They should just get to be kids. Life doesn't always give us what we should have, just what we can survive. That afternoon, Harold called. "Bail hearing is tomorrow," he said. "Rodriguez wanted to give you a heads up. Claire's lawyer is pushing hard for release." "Based on what?" "Clean record, community ties, 2 young children who need their mother." He paused. "And they're claiming you're the real threat, that Claire is the victim of elder abuse from you." I almost laughed. "That's insane. It's a strategy. Flip the narrative. Make you look like a manipulative matriarch who couldn't handle losing control of her son. Will it work? Not with the evidence we have, but they'll try." He cleared his throat. "The prosecutor wants you there, at the hearing, to show the judge who the real victim is." "I'll be there." "It won't be pleasant. Claire's lawyer will make accusations. Claire herself might speak. You'll have to see her." "I'm not afraid of her anymore." "You should be." Harold's voice went hard. "She sent you that threatening text from jail. She's not thinking clearly. Desperate people do desperate things. She's been desperate this whole time. That's what made her dangerous. And now she's cornered. That's worse." The bail hearing was at 10 a.m. David insisted on coming with me. "I need to see her, need to look her in the eye." "Why?" "To understand. How I missed it. How she fooled me so completely. You won't find answers in her face, David. Only what she wants you to see." But he came anyway. We sat in the courtroom, small, institutional, smelling of old wood and anxiety. Rodriguez sat with the prosecutor, files stacked high. Harold beside me, briefcase open, ready. Then they brought her in. Claire. Orange jumpsuit, no makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked smaller somehow, younger, almost vulnerable. Until she saw us. Then her face transformed. Just for a second, a flash of pure hatred so intense it was like looking into fire. Then the mask came back. Tears, trembling lips, wounded eyes. She was still performing. All rise. Judge Morrison entered a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse and believed none of them. Be seated. The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, the state opposes bail. The defendant is charged with attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud, forgery, and witness intimidation. She poses a clear danger to the victim, her husband's mother, and has already demonstrated a willingness to continue threatening behavior even from custody. He presented the text message, the recording, the evidence of premeditation. Claire's lawyer stood, a man in an expensive suit with practiced sincerity. Your Honor, my client is a devoted mother of 2 young children who need her. She has no prior criminal record. These charges are based on misunderstandings and a family dispute that has been blown out of proportion. Attempted murder is not a family dispute, the judge said dryly. The alleged brake tampering has no direct evidence linking my client to the act. The insulin was prescribed for legitimate medical use. She's not diabetic, Rodriguez interjected. And the recording was obtained through entrapment. Mrs. Chen goaded my client into making statements that were taken out of context. I have the full recording, the prosecutor said. The context is clear. The defendant confessed to planning the victim's death for financial gain. Under duress, while being recorded without knowledge or consent. In a one-party consent state, Harold added, the recording is legal. Judge Morrison held up a hand. Does the defendant wish to speak? Claire stood slowly, wiped her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was small, broken. Your Honor, I love my mother-in-law. I've spent 5 years caring for her, trying to help her as she's gotten older. When she started showing signs of confusion, I documented it out of concern. When she became paranoid, accusing me of terrible things, I tried to get her medical help. She was good. I'd give her that. The brake line was damaged, I don't know how, but I never touched it. The insulin is mine, prescribed by a doctor I see out of state for privacy reasons. And the recording, she looked directly at me now. She set me up, provoked me, made me sound like a monster when I was just a daughter-in-law trying to survive a hostile home environment. Your Honor, David stood suddenly. Everyone turned. Mr. Chen, the judge said, you're not a party to this. She's my wife. I should know her better than anyone. His voice shook. And I'm here to tell you every word she just said is a lie. Claire's face went white. I heard the recording, not just the part being used as evidence, all of it. My mother didn't provoke her. She didn't manipulate her. Claire confessed, voluntarily, to marrying me for money, to planning my mother's death, to seeing our children as disposable. David, Claire's voice broke. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. He looked at her, and I saw something die in his eyes. You fooled me. For 5 years. Made me doubt my own mother. Made me think I was protecting you when I was helping you destroy my family. That's not true. Yes, it is. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, if you release her on bail, I believe she will hurt my mother. She's already sent threatening texts from jail. She's desperate, cornered, and she has nothing left to lose. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison looked at Claire for a long moment. Bail is denied, she said finally. The defendant will remain in custody pending trial. Next hearing in 30 days. The gavel fell. Claire's scream echoed through the courtroom. No, you can't. I have children. David, tell them I need to be home. The officers moved to take her away. She fought them. This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over. She looked at me as they dragged her toward the door. And she smiled again. That poisonous smile. Like even now, even losing, she knew something I didn't. Outside the courthouse, David collapsed against the wall. I just testified against my wife, he said numbly. You told the truth. Same thing. He looked at me. The kids are going to hate me. They're going to understand, eventually. When? In 10 years? 20? His voice rose. When they're in therapy talking about how their dad helped put their mother in prison? When they're old enough to understand she tried to kill their grandmother? I touched his face. David, you did the right thing. Then why does it feel like I destroyed everything? Because love doesn't stop just because someone betrays you. You're allowed to grieve what you thought you had. He sobbed then. Right there on the courthouse steps, 43 years old and crying like a child. I held him until he had nothing left. Harold approached quietly. The prosecutor wants to fast-track the trial. With David's testimony and all the evidence, they think we have a strong case. How fast? 3 months, maybe less. 3 months of reliving this, of testimony, of watching Claire perform for a jury the way she'd performed for my son. Will she go to prison? David asked. If convicted? Almost certainly. She's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. David made a sound like something breaking. My kids are going to grow up without a mother. Your kids are going to grow up safe, I corrected. There's a difference. That night, the kids finally asked the question they'd been avoiding. Is Mommy coming back? My granddaughter whispered. We were sitting in the living room, David, me, both children curled up between us. Not for a long time, sweetie, David said carefully. Why? Because she made choices that hurt people. And when you hurt people, there are consequences. Did she hurt Grandma? David looked at me. I nodded. Yes, he said. She did. My grandson's jaw tightened. Then I don't want her to come back. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. He looked at his father with eyes too old. She was mean. To you. To Grandma. To us, when she thought no one was listening. My granddaughter started crying. But she's our mom. I know, baby. David pulled her close. And you're allowed to miss her. You're allowed to love her. You're allowed to feel however you feel. I feel confused, she sobbed. Me too, David whispered. Me too. Later, after the kids were finally asleep, I found David in the garage, standing in the exact spot where I'd caught Claire that night. She was here, he said, sabotaging the car, planning to kill you. And I was upstairs, completely oblivious. You couldn't have known. I should have. He turned to me. All those times you tried to tell me something was wrong, all those hints, all those concerns, and I dismissed every single one. Because you wanted your marriage to work, that's human. It's unforgivable. David, if you'd died, Mom, if she'd succeeded, I would have helped her cover it up, helped her access your estate, raised my kids around a murderer. His voice broke. I would have been complicit, but I didn't die. And you did help once you knew the truth. Is that enough? It has to be. We stood in the garage where it had all started, where I'd seen her, known something was wrong, begun the chain of events that led here. I'm not sure I'll ever trust anyone again, David said quietly. That would make her win. She's already won. He gestured at the empty house. Look what she's done to us, to our family. We're broken. We're damaged, I corrected. Not broken. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. I took his hand. Broken things can't be fixed. Damaged things can heal. It takes time. It hurts. But we can survive this. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But Claire had taken something from him that would take years to rebuild. Trust. In himself, in others, in the world. She'd stolen more than money. She'd stolen his faith that good things could be real. And I wasn't sure how to give that back. That night, alone in my room, I received another message. Unknown number. Different phone, same sender. 3 months until trial. A lot can happen in 3 months. Ask yourself, are your grandchildren really safe? My blood ran cold. I forwarded it immediately to Rodriguez, to Harold, to David. Within an hour, the prosecutor had filed for additional charges. Threatening minors, continued witness intimidation. Each message was another nail in Claire's coffin. But also another reminder. She was still out there, Still fighting, still dangerous. And this was far from over. I didn't tell the police about the letter. I told my lawyer instead. Because I understood what Claire was doing. She was going to claim I'd forged it, that my dementia was making me paranoid, that I was manufacturing evidence to make her look worse. It was brilliant, really. Every threat she sent gave her more charges. But every charge I reported made me look more obsessed. She was building her defense even from behind bars. "What do you want me to do?" Harold asked when I showed him the latest message. This one slipped under my door at 3 a.m., despite Claire supposedly being in custody. "I want you to document everything, timestamp it, get surveillance footage from my security cameras, prove someone came to my house while she was locked up." "You think she has an accomplice?" "I think she's had one all along." I thought about those emails, those searches, those perfectly timed escalations. Someone's been helping her, someone who still believes in her. Her family? Maybe. Or someone else she charmed the way she charmed my son. Harold's expression darkened. "If she has someone on the outside willing to continue threatening you, then we find them, and we add them to the prosecution." The trial was set for 3 months out. But Claire's lawyer pushed for 4, then 5, claiming they needed time to prepare a proper defense. What they really needed was time for people to forget, for emotions to cool, for my story to seem less urgent. The prosecutor fought back. The defendant has already demonstrated a pattern of continued threats despite being in custody. Every day we delay is another day she can orchestrate intimidation. My client has no access to the outside world beyond monitored phone calls and supervised visits, Claire's lawyer argued. Any alleged threats are either fabricated or originating from third parties without her knowledge. "Then explain the handwriting match," Rodriguez interjected, holding up the latest letter. "We had it analyzed. It's hers." Silence. "Someone smuggled paper and pen into her cell," the prosecutor continued. "Someone delivered her letters to the victim's home. This is an organized effort to intimidate a witness." The judge set the trial for 4 months. A compromise no one was happy with. 4 more months of living in fear. 4 more months of watching my grandchildren ask when mommy was coming home. 4 more months of seeing David disintegrate piece by piece. 2 weeks later, I got a visitor. A woman I'd never seen before, mid-30s, professional, with kind eyes and a briefcase. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Amanda Pierce. I'm a forensic psychologist, and I've been asked to evaluate you for the trial." My stomach dropped. "By whom?" "The defense. They want to assess your mental competency." She saw my face. "I know how that sounds, but it's standard procedure in elder abuse cases. I'm not the one being accused of abuse." "No, but your testimony is central to the prosecution's case. The defense has a right to challenge your credibility." She sat down across from me, uninvited. "This can be informal, just a conversation." "Recorded?" "Unless you object." "I object." She put away her phone. "All right. Off the record then. How have you been sleeping?" "Fine." A lie. I hadn't slept properly in months. "Any memory issues, confusion, disorientation?" "No." "Your daughter-in-law documented several incidents." "My daughter-in-law is a liar." "You seem angry." "Someone tried to kill me. I'm allowed to be angry." She made a note. "Have you experienced any paranoia? Feelings that people are out to get you?" "People are out to get me. Claire's still sending threats." "Do you have proof?" I pulled out my phone, showed her the messages, the letters, the timeline of harassment. She reviewed it carefully. "This is compelling, but the defense will argue you could have manufactured this." "Why would I?" "To ensure your daughter-in-law stays in prison, to maintain control over your son, to punish her for threatening your position in the family." I stared at her. "You believe that?" "It doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what a jury might believe." She closed her notebook. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be honest with you. The defense is going to paint you as a controlling matriarch who couldn't handle losing influence over her son. They're going to point to your age, suggest cognitive decline, argue that you've constructed an elaborate conspiracy theory because you're losing your grip on reality. And you? Me?" She met my eyes. I think you're one of the sharpest people I've ever evaluated. I think you outmaneuvered a dangerous woman and saved your own life. And I think the defense is going to have a hell of a time convincing anyone otherwise." She stood, extended her hand. "My report will reflect that. See you in court, Mrs. Chen." 3 months in, David finally broke. I found him in his bedroom, Claire's clothes still in the closet, her perfume still on the dresser. "I can't do this," he said. "I can't testify. I can't stand up in front of a courtroom and destroy the mother of my children." She destroyed herself. By loving me? By marrying into this family? He gestured around. Maybe she was right. Maybe we are the problem. "David, I've been going through old emails, old texts, looking for signs I missed. And you know what I found?" He pulled out his phone. "This, from 2 years ago." He showed me a text from Claire to him. "Your mom made another comment about how I load the dishwasher. I know she doesn't mean it, but sometimes I feel like I'll never be good enough for her." David's response: "She's just particular. Don't take it personally." "Claire, I'm trying. I really am. I just want her to love me like a daughter." "She was manipulating you even then," I said quietly. "Or she was a woman trying to fit into a family that never accepted her." He looked at me. "Did you ever really give her a chance, Mom?" The question hit like a slap. I tried. "Did you? Or did you decide from day one she wasn't good enough?" "David, she tried to kill me. After 5 years of feeling like an outsider, of being criticized and judged and never quite measuring up," his voice rose. "What if we drove her to this? What if our family was so toxic that she felt murder was her only escape?" "That's not you. Can't believe that." "I don't know what I believe anymore." He threw his phone across the room. "All I know is my wife is in jail, my kids cry themselves to sleep every night, and I helped put her there." "You protected your mother." "Did I? Or did I just choose one woman over another because it was easier than facing the truth?" "What truth?" "That maybe we're both victims." He sat on the bed, head in his hands. "Maybe she's a monster. Maybe she's not. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between, and I'll never know because I didn't pay attention when it mattered." I sat beside him, wanted to tell him he was wrong. That Claire was pure evil, that we were innocent, that this was simple. But nothing about this was simple. "She made her choices," I said finally. "The brake line, the forged documents, the insulin. Those weren't reactions to feeling unwelcome. Those were premeditated attempts to commit fraud and murder." "Then why do I feel like the villain?" "Because you loved her. And love doesn't stop just because someone betrays you." He leaned against me, and we sat in silence. In the room that used to belong to both of them, that now belonged to ghosts. The trial began on a Tuesday. The courthouse was packed reporters, curious onlookers, Claire's family glaring at us from across the aisle. She'd lost weight in custody, looked fragile in her court clothes, hair perfectly styled by someone, makeup applied with expertise. Still performing. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically. The brake line evidence, Marcus's testimony, the forged documents, the search history, my recordings. Claire's lawyer countered every point. The brake line could have been damaged by road debris. The documents were prepared at Mrs. Chen's request, she simply forgot. The searches were research for a novel. The recording was obtained through manipulation and entrapment. Back and forth, evidence and doubt, truth and spin. Then they called me to the stand. I walked up slowly, aware of every eye on me. The old woman, the victim, the accuser. I placed my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor was gentle. "Mrs. Chen, can you describe the night you saw the defendant in your garage?" I did. Calmly, clearly, no embellishment. Just facts. Just facts. Claire's lawyer stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Chen, how old are you?" 67. "And you live alone?" "I live with my son's family." "But you maintain your own household? Make your own decisions?" "Yes." "Do you ever forget things? Misplace items? Lose track of time?" "Sometimes. Everyone does." "Do you ever feel like people are taking advantage of you?" "When they try to, yes." Has anyone in your family ever suggested you might need help? Perhaps cognitive assistance? My daughter-in-law has, to manipulate my son into doubting me. Or because she genuinely cared about your well-being? If she cared about my well-being, she wouldn't have cut my brake line. Murmurs in the courtroom. Mrs. Chen, you testified that you recorded my client without her knowledge. Isn't that manipulative? It's self-defense. You orchestrated a confrontation in your kitchen at 2 a.m. Deliberately provoked her. That sounds like entrapment. I was getting water in my own home. She was the one with a syringe. A syringe for her medical condition. She's not diabetic. According to medical records, you accessed illegally. According to her insurance company, which my son has legal access to as her spouse. Back and forth. She was good. Claire's lawyer. But I was better. I'd lived 67 years, survived 1,000 battles bigger than this. I wasn't going to let some lawyer in an expensive suit intimidate me. Finally, the prosecutor called David. My son walked to the stand like he was walking to his execution. Pale, shaking, barely holding it together. Mr. Chen, what was your relationship with the defendant? She's my wife. Present tense. Like she still was. Can you describe your mother's behavior over the past year? She seemed worried, protective. I thought she was being paranoid. And now? Now I know she was right. Claire's lawyer objected. Speculation. Sustained. But the jury had heard it. The prosecutor continued. Did you ever witness your wife acting suspiciously? I didn't see it then. But looking back, yes. The late-night computer sessions, the way she isolated my mother from family events, the constant comments about Mom's memory. Did you believe those comments? David's voice broke. Yes. God help me, yes. Why? Because I loved her. Because I trusted her. Because I wanted to believe my wife was good. And now? He looked at Claire. She was crying silently, beautifully. Still performing. Now I know she married me for my mother's money. That she spent 5 years planning how to get it. That she tried to kill the woman who raised me. His voice hardened. And I helped her. By being blind. By choosing her over my mother. By being the fool she needed me to be. The courtroom was silent. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. We sat outside, waiting. David, pacing, me sitting, Harold checking his watch. Rodriguez approached. However this goes, you did good. You fought back. You survived. Is that enough? It has to be. The bailiff emerged. Jury's back. We filed into the courtroom. Claire stood as the verdict was read. On the count of attempted murder, guilty. Her knees buckled. On the count of elder abuse, guilty. Her lawyer caught her. On the count of fraud, guilty. She was sobbing now. Loud, wrenching sobs. On the count of forgery, guilty. One by one, every count. Guilty. Judge Morrison looked down at her. Mrs. Chen, you have been found guilty on all counts. Sentencing will be in 30 days, but I want you to understand the severity of what you've done. You violated trust. You terrorized a vulnerable woman. You attempted to murder your husband's mother for financial gain. Claire looked up, mascara streaming. I didn't. I never meant. You did. And you will face the consequences. Bailiff, remand the defendant to custody. They led her away. She looked back at David one last time. I loved you, she said. That was real. He said nothing. Just watched his wife, the mother of his children, disappear through the door. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Mrs. Chen, how does it feel to get justice? What would you say to other elder abuse victims? Do you forgive your daughter-in-law? I stopped, looked at the cameras. I'm not vindictive, I said clearly. I'm just alive, and that's what she couldn't stand. The quote would be everywhere by evening. But I didn't care. I was tired. So tired. David drove us home in silence. When we pulled into the driveway, my house, the one Claire had tried to steal, I saw my grandchildren waiting on the porch. They ran to us as we got out of the car. Did you win, Grandma? My granddaughter asked. Yes, baby, we won. Is Mommy going to jail? I looked at David. He nodded. Yes, I said, for a long time. My grandson took my hand. Good, you're safe now. Simple, clear, child logic. Bad people get punished, good people stay safe. If only it were that easy. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Lay in bed thinking about Claire's last words. I loved you. That was real. Was it? Had there been real feeling somewhere under all the performance? Or was that just one final manipulation? I'd never know. And maybe that was the worst part. Not the attempted murder, not the lies, but the uncertainty. The knowledge that someone had lived in our home, eaten at our table, held our children, and we'd never really known who they were. Around midnight, I got out of bed, walked through the house one more time, checking locks, checking windows, making sure we were finally, truly safe. In the kitchen, I stopped, stood in the exact spot where Claire had held that syringe, where I'd recorded her confession, where everything had ended. The keys, her keys, the ones she'd tried to kill me with, were still in my desk drawer. I'd kept them. A reminder of how close I'd come, of how strong I'd had to be, of how I'd protected what was mine. I picked them up now, cold metal in my palm, and I threw them in the garbage. I didn't need reminders anymore. I was here, alive, breathing, still standing in the house she'd tried to steal, still living the life she'd wanted dead. I'd survived. We'd all survived. Damaged, yes. Broken, maybe. But alive. And sometimes, that's enough. Sometimes, survival is its own victory. I went back upstairs, crawled into bed, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I slept through the night. Dreamless. Peaceful. Free.